So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a measurement from the back face of the wheel flange to this keeper right here, or collar. And that measurement will be the same on every single axle. And that's factory measurements. So that measurement is 6 inches. So now I go to the inside of the machine, and I think what I can do is I can take these measurements once I get the axle shaft in at the correct measurement, you know, get the outer bearing and the keeper in place and get those mounted, and slide the shaft in. Then I can take measurements from the end of the shaft here to the sprocket, and that'll have me at the correct distance for each axle. And then it's just a matter of bolting the bearing on, and then the keeper falls where it may. So the critical measurement, I think, is the outside measurement and where this sprocket is, so the chains run in the right orientation. So let me see here. I can't see me doing that. Let's see if I can do this. I don't have a tripod or anything out here today. I should. Because this is sucking balls. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to measure from the outside of the end of the axle shaft to the inside. No, actually to the outside of the sprocket, because the next all the sprockets down in line, they all meet up on this one line. There's a double sprocket right behind you now, and that outer edge all has to line up in a row. So taking this measurement from the outboard side of the sprocket to the end of the axle shaft will tell me where to put this and the double roller sprocket. So that is, wow, that's a weird measurement. Make sure I got all the shit off of the end of there. It's about 4.8 something. Four and 7/8. So those should only be the two measurements I really need. Everything else will be where it will be. So if you look at this, here's where the wheel mounts. So the distance from the inside of that wheel flange to the outside of this keeper, or this collar, this guy right here, lock collar, that keeps the axle from sliding left or right. That distance is critical, so that's at 6 inches. Everything from that point, you know, the bearing obviously has to go right tight to the collar, which then will bolt to the tub and the frame. And then the next critical distance is from the end of the axle shaft to the outboard side, or the outer edge of the sprocket. Now, there's also a double roller sprocket, but on the double roller sprocket, one of those sprockets always has to line up. Why can't I get this off of here? Always has to be in a row like that. Okay, so one set of chains will, so it doesn't matter, just as long as that the outboard side is the same for this sprocket on the shaft as this sprocket on the rear. This is on the middle shaft, middle axle. This sprocket is on the front and on the back, because here's where the engine connects. So yeah, so as long as this measurement here, from here to the outside of the tub, or from here, actually what I'm doing is measuring from here to the end of the axle shaft. As long as that's the same on all 6 axles, the chain will be lined up dead on. So that was pretty painless, but that's something I should have thought of doing in the first place, and I didn't, and now I have it. So once I get everything tore apart and I put it all back together, I'll be able to reference that, because I know I will forget. And I can't really, here's an axle shaft that I didn't clean up yet, and you can see where there's a lot of wear marks. Like, I'm pretty much guaranteed this is the rear bearing and the retaining cap, but it looks like, you know, yeah, here's where the sprocket went. Here's where the inboard bearing was, and the retaining ring. But where on this shaft they actually set from left to right is anybody's guess. So better to take measurements before you tear it all apart.